The twin suns of Elthra burned gold above the royal palace. From the crystal towers to the floating gardens, everything shone with light, perfect, calm, and proud. Inside the great hall, thousands of alien nobles gathered in silence. The Emperor of Elthra sat on his throne, his silver robe flowing like liquid metal. His only daughter, Princess Lyrina, stood before him in her battle armor, her purple eyes filled with anger. "You will marry the human," the Emperor said. His voice was deep, calm, and final. "It is the only way to keep peace with Earth." Lyrina's wings trembled. "I'll never marry a human," she shouted, her voice echoing across the hall. Gasps rose from the crowd. The alien nobles whispered, their long fingers covering their mouths. Humans were newcomers to the stars, still weak in Althran eyes. They were known for wars, greed, and emotion. Lyrina had spent her life hearing that humans were beneath them, strange creatures ruled by their hearts instead of logic. Her father's eyes narrowed. "Your pride will destroy our future," he warned. "This union will end the wars between our worlds." "I don't care," Lyrina said. "Let the humans fight their own battles. I will not bind my bloodline to theirs." The Emperor rose from his throne, his tall figure glowing under the crystal lights. "Enough. The human envoy arrives tonight. You will meet him, and you will show respect." Lyrina turned away sharply, her armor glinting. "Respect must be earned," she muttered as she stormed out of the hall. That night, the palace was silent. The sky above shimmered with colors as a small ship entered orbit. It was made of black metal and burned like a falling star as it descended onto the landing platform. Lyrina stood on the balcony, watching the human ship arrive. Her heart pounded, not from fear but from anger. She imagined what kind of weak creature would step out of that machine. When the doors opened, a man in a dark uniform walked down the ramp. His name was Captain Ethan Hale, commander of the Human Peace Delegation. His eyes were calm and sharp, his expression steady even in front of hundreds of alien guards. He bowed slightly before the Emperor and then looked up, directly at Lyrina. For a brief moment, the world seemed to stop. Between them, the air shimmered faintly with blue light, a strange flicker, like an invisible energy that pulsed once and vanished. Lyrina blinked, confused. Ethan didn't react. He simply said, "Your Majesty, I come in peace and with hope that our worlds may finally understand each other." His voice was calm, confident, and strong. It didn't sound like weakness. Lyrina frowned. "You speak well for a creature from a broken planet," she said coldly. Ethan met her gaze. "And you judge quickly for someone who has never seen Earth." The court murmured again. The Emperor raised a hand. "Enough. You both will dine tonight. There will be time to speak of peace." Lyrina turned away furious. She didn't want to see the human again. But something deep inside her, a quiet spark, kept her from leaving. Later that night, the great banquet began. Lights danced across crystal walls. Music filled the air, slow and haunting. The Emperor spoke with Ethan about trade, travel, and peace. Lyrina stayed silent, pretending not to care, but she watched him carefully. Ethan spoke with honesty, not fear. He didn't flatter anyone. When a noble insulted humans, Ethan only smiled and said, "Perhaps one day we'll prove you wrong." That calm confidence bothered Lyrina. She was used to fear and obedience, and not this quiet strength. Then suddenly alarms screamed through the palace. Red lights flashed. The guards shouted, "Attack! The defense grid is down!" Explosions shook the floor. From the sky, strange ships appeared, fast, black, and deadly. They weren't human ships. They carried no known markings. Energy blasts tore through the palace walls. The Emperor stood and shouted commands. Lyrina grabbed her staff weapon, ready to fight. Ethan drew a human plasma pistol and ran beside her, firing back at the attackers. His moves were precise, brave, even graceful. For the first time, Lyrina saw him not as a human, but as a warrior. When the firing stopped, smoke filled the air. Dozens were injured. The Emperor's guards surrounded the throne, but the Emperor was nowhere to be seen. Lyrina coughed, scanning the chaos. Ethan stood nearby, his arm bleeding but his eyes still alert. A soldier shouted, "The human caused this. He turned off the defenses." The guards raised their weapons toward Ethan. Lyrina froze. Part of her wanted to believe it, to hate him again. But she had seen his face in battle. She had seen him protect her people. Ethan didn't beg. He raised his hand slowly. If I wanted war, he said, I wouldn't have saved your princess. The guards seized him anyway. Lorena stood still as they dragged him away, torn between duty and doubt. As the doors closed behind him, she felt that strange energy again, that same shimmer from before, and a whisper echoed in her mind. Nothing is as it seems. She didn't know whose voice it was, but it sent a chill down her spine. And for the first time in her life, Princess Lorena wasn't sure who the enemy truly was. The dungeons of the Elthran Palace were carved deep beneath the shining city, a place of silence and shadow. The air was cold and heavy with the hum of energy barriers. Behind one of those glowing walls sat Captain Ethan Hale, the human accused of treason. His face was bruised, his uniform torn, yet his eyes still burned with calm strength. Above him, through layers of crystal and steel, the Empire raged in chaos. The Emperor was missing, the palace was half destroyed, and fear ruled every hall. Princess Lorena walked down the narrow corridor, her armored boots echoing against the floor. The guard stepped aside, bowing deeply. Your Highness, one said, the human awaits interrogation. Lorena said nothing. Her heart was still full of anger and confusion. The attack had left her shaken, but what troubled her most was what she had seen. Ethan fighting beside her people, risking his life to protect them. That image refused to fade. When the energy barrier opened with a hiss, she stepped inside. Ethan looked up. His eyes met hers. You came to see your prisoner, he said quietly, or your scapegoat? Lorena crossed her arms. You think yourself clever. Our defense grid failed the moment your ship landed. Explain that. I already did, Ethan replied, his voice steady. Someone sabotaged your systems. My crew never touched them. Lorena's eyes narrowed. Do you expect me to believe that? He shrugged slightly. I expect you to look for truth, not excuses. That simple answer made her pulse quicken. No fear, no begging. Just calm defiance. She turned away, pacing the small cell. You humans. You talk of peace, yet everywhere you go, war follows. Ethan leaned forward. And yet here I am, unarmed, surrounded, and still asking for peace. Tell me, Princess, who's really afraid? Lorena stopped. She hated how his words felt like arrows, quiet but sharp. You dare speak to me like that? She hissed. I dare speak the truth, Ethan said softly. Because I saw something during the attack and your own guards turning their weapons inward. Someone inside your court wanted this. Her breath caught. Could it be true? Could betrayal hide so close? But she quickly masked her doubt. You have no proof. Maybe not, Ethan said, but you do. You just haven't looked yet. The silence between them grew heavy. Lorena wanted to strike him to silence that steady voice, but deep inside something whispered. He might be right. She turned to leave, but as she did, something on his wrist caught her eye. It was faint, glowing beneath his skin, a mark like a symbol of light. Wait, she said, stepping closer. Show me your hand. Ethan frowned but raised it slowly. The glow shimmered, a curved rune of ancient Elthran design. Lorena's eyes widened. That symbol? It's impossible. What does it mean? Ethan asked. It's the mark of a guardian, she whispered. A protector from Elthran legend. No human should have it. The air between them grew still. Where did you get this? She demanded. I was born with it, Ethan replied. Doctors on Earth said it was a birthmark. Looks like they were wrong. Her mind raced. Ancient scrolls told of a time when Elthrans and humans fought side by side, bound by blood and energy. That history was erased centuries ago. If this mark was real, it meant Ethan carried something far older and far more dangerous than anyone realized. Before she could speak again, the dungeon lights flickered. The floor trembled. Somewhere above, an explosion rocked the palace. The guard outside shouted, Princess, we're under attack again. Ethan rose. Let me help. You're a prisoner, she said automatically, and you'll be dead if you don't open that door, he replied. Lorena hesitated for just a second. Then her instincts took over. She deactivated the barrier. Ethan stepped out, grabbing a fallen weapon from the guard. Together they ran through the halls as alarms blared. They reached the upper level. Smoke, fire, and screams filled the air. Lorena saw more palace soldiers fighting. Other Elthrans. It's a coup, she whispered. Someone's seizing power. Ethan turned to her. Then your emperor isn't dead. He's being taken. She looked at him, shock in her eyes. How do you know that? Because that's what I do, he said grimly. Take the leader, frame the outsider. She stared at him, this strange human with a warrior's mind and an alien mark, and felt something shift inside her heart. For the first time, she didn't see him as an enemy. When they reached the hangar, the sky outside glowed red with fire. The palace's last defense ships were falling. Lorena turned to Ethan. "If I free you," she said slowly, "you may run. You may betray us," Ethan met her gaze, "or I may save you." Their eyes locked again, the same strange blue shimmer flickering faintly between them, the same energy that had connected them the first time they met. Lorena took a deep breath, made her choice, and opened the last gate. "Come on, human," she said. "Let's see if your courage is real." As they fled into the burning night, a shadow watched from above, Lord Tyrax, the Emperor's most trusted advisor, smiling coldly. "The game begins," he whispered. And in that moment, the fate of two worlds started to change forever. The night sky of Aelthra burned red as the royal palace fell into ruin. Smoke coiled through the crystal towers and the sound of battle echoed across the city. Hidden in the maze of tunnels beneath the palace, Princess Lorena and Captain Ethan Hale ran through the darkness, guided only by the flicker of broken lights. Every few steps, the ground shook. Explosions rumbled above like thunder. The once peaceful capital had turned into a war zone. Lorena's breath came fast. She clutched her energy staff tightly, her mind spinning. How did everything fall apart so quickly? Who wanted war? Ethan ran beside her, calm and alert, scanning every turn. Even in this chaos, he moved with quiet focus. His hand still glowed faintly with that strange mark, the Guardian rune. When they reached an abandoned storage chamber, Lorena stopped. The doors sealed behind them with a metallic hiss. "We should be safe here. For now," she said, leaning against the wall. Ethan nodded. "Whoever attacked the palace wasn't human," he said. "Their ships were different, older, sharper. Someone from inside your own empire must have let them in." Lorena frowned. "That's impossible. My father's guards are loyal." "Loyal," Ethan said quietly, "until someone offers them more power." His words stung. Lorena turned away, staring at the shadows. "You speak as if you know betrayal." Ethan's face hardened. "I do. On my world, I've seen peace turn to war because of lies." Their eyes met, and for a moment there was silence. A heavy, uncertain silence filled with unspoken truths. Then Lorena straightened. "That mark on your hand, it means something. I've seen it only in the oldest records." Ethan looked down at the faint blue glow. "You said it was a guardian rune. What does that mean?" Lorena hesitated. "It's from before the Great Divide, before Aelthra and Earth became enemies. Our ancestors once fought together against a darker race. The Guardians were said to be protectors who carried both human and Aelthran blood." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "So you're saying—" "I'm saying it's impossible," Lorena cut him off. "The records say all Guardians died thousands of years ago. No human should have that mark." Ethan smiled faintly. "Guess I didn't get the message." Despite the tension, Lorena almost smiled. But her thoughts turned heavy again. If Ethan truly carried Guardian blood, then someone must have known, and wanted him dead before the truth was revealed. She moved to the control panel and activated a small holographic map. "These tunnels lead to the old archives," she said. "If I can access them, maybe I'll find proof of what's happening." They followed the tunnels deeper underground. The air grew colder, the walls older. Strange carvings glowed faintly as they passed, ancient symbols of unity between humans and Aelthrans. Finally, they reached the Hall of Echoes, an ancient archive sealed for centuries. The huge door opened with a deep rumble, revealing rows of floating crystal tablets filled with light. Lorena stepped forward, her eyes wide. "These are forbidden records. My father said they were lost." She touched one of the crystals and it came alive. A hologram appeared. Images of humans and Aelthrans standing side by side fighting a shadow-like enemy. The same rune from Ethan's hand glowed on their armor. "Guardians of the bridge," said a calm ancient voice. "The bond between two worlds must never be broken. When the bridge fails, darkness will return." The vision faded, leaving silence. Ethan looked at Lorena. "So it's true. Our worlds were one." Lorena's eyes filled with wonder and fear, and someone erased it all. Before they could speak again, a low rumble shook the chamber. The lights flickered. Ethan pulled his weapon. "We're not alone." From the shadows, Dark-armored soldiers emerged, faces hidden behind silver masks. Lorena recognized their emblem in the House of Tyrax, her father's own advisor. "Run!" she shouted. They fired at once. Energy bolts cut through the air. Ethan shielded Lorena, returning fire with deadly precision. Crystal shards exploded around them. The tunnel roof began to collapse. Lorena grabbed Ethan's arm. "This way!" They sprinted through a side corridor, diving as the passage behind them caved in. Dust filled the air. When the sound finally faded, they found themselves in a smaller chamber, dark and still. Ethan coughed. "Who are those soldiers?" "My father's advisor's men," Lorena said grimly. "Lord Tyrax, he must have planned all of this." Ethan frowned. "Then he has your father." Lorena looked up sharply. "You're right. He's not dead. Tyrax needs him alive to take control." Her mind raced. If the people believe the Emperor was killed by a human, Tyrax can declare war. He'll unite the Empire through hate. Ethan nodded slowly. "And peace dies forever." Lorena clenched her fists. "Then we can't let that happen. We'll find my father. We'll expose Tyrax. But the whole Empire will be hunting us," Ethan warned. She looked at him. Tired, bruised, but determined. "Then let them hunt. I am not afraid." For a moment they stood together in silence. The air between them glowed faintly again, that same blue shimmer pulsing stronger now as if it recognized their shared resolve. Ethan smiled softly. "You're not what I expected, Princess. And you," she replied, "are far more than a human." Outside, the city lights dimmed under a red warning sky. The first message from Lord Tyrax spread through the Empire. The Emperor is dead. The human is his killer. The princess has betrayed her people. Lorena's heart froze as she read the transmission. Her father was alive, but the galaxy now believed she was the traitor. And in the darkness of the tunnels, she swore one thing to herself. She would uncover every secret in the shadow, or die trying. The world of Elthra was no longer glowing with peace. The twin suns now shone on burning cities and falling ships. Smoke covered the skies like a storm that refused to end. Hidden deep within the wastelands, Princess Lorena and Captain Ethan Hale traveled under the cover of dust storms. Their small hovercraft moved silently through ruins that once belonged to proud families now lost to war. Lorena's once bright armor was scratched and dull. Her royal crest was gone, replaced by a rough cloak. She was no longer a princess of light. She was a fugitive. The galaxy now called her a traitor. News broadcasts across Elthra screamed her name. Lorena has joined the human invader. She killed the Emperor. Each time she heard those words from distant radios or drones, her heart tightened. But she said nothing. Her silence was her only strength now. Ethan sat beside her in the hovercraft, scanning the horizon with human eyes that seemed to miss nothing. He had tied his wound with cloth and barely slept. Yet he didn't complain. He never did. Finally, Lorena spoke. "You could have left me. You had the chance." Ethan looked at her, his voice calm. "And let you face this alone? That's not what a soldier does," she frowned. "You are strange, human. You risk your life for someone who once hated your kind." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm just stubborn." Their small moment of quiet was broken by the sharp buzz of scanners. A drone passed overhead, searching the ruins. Lorena turned off the hovercraft's engine and held her breath. The drone paused, then moved away. Only then did she exhale. "We can't stay here," Ethan said. "They're tracking your energy signature." "There's one place they won't look," she said. "The old Temple of the Guardians," he nodded. "Lead the way." They reached the Temple of Vanir by nightfall. It stood on a cliff above a red desert, half buried under stone and sand. The great doors were broken, the statues shattered by time. As they stepped inside, the air changed. It was quiet, almost too quiet, and filled with a faint humming sound. Blue crystals in the walls pulsed like a slow heartbeat. "This place feels alive," Ethan whispered. "It is," Lorena said softly. "The Guardians built it. They left their energy here. My father said it was cursed, but I think he feared it." She moved toward the central altar, brushing off layers of dust. Strange carvings glowed, humans and Elthrans standing together under one light. Ethan placed his hand on the wall, and his rune shimmered brighter than before. The temple lights answered him, glowing as if recognizing their lost protector. Lorena's eyes widened. "It responds to you. Before they could explore more, the ground shook violently. The temple trembled. Outside, engines roared. A squadron of rebel hunters had tracked them. "They found us," Lorena shouted. Ethan rushed to the doorway, firing his plasma gun toward the cliffs. The rebels fired back, their energy blasts lighting up the night. Lorena joined him, fighting fiercely, her wings flaring with light as she struck down 2 soldiers with her staff. But there were too many. A blast hit near Ethan, throwing him to the ground. He groaned, clutching his side, blood staining his shirt. "Ethan!" Lorena screamed, running to him. He looked up weakly. "Keep fighting." "No," she said, kneeling beside him. "You saved me. Now it's my turn." She dragged him deeper into the temple, hiding behind fallen stones. The rebels' voices echoed outside, shouting orders. Lorena tore a piece of her cloak and pressed it to his wound. Her hands trembled, but she worked quickly. "You humans are supposed to be weaker," she whispered bitterly, "yet you keep surviving." Ethan smiled faintly through the pain. "Maybe you don't know us well enough." She looked into his eyes, steady even now, and something inside her shifted again. For so long, she had thought humans were fragile. But this man, bleeding and broken, was stronger than most warriors she'd known. "I can't let you die," she said quietly. He gave a tired laugh. "You're starting to sound human." She almost smiled, but then a shadow moved behind them. A rebel soldier aimed his rifle. Before he could shoot, Lorena turned, energy flaring from her staff. The soldier fell, his weapon shattering in sparks. Silence followed. The remaining rebels retreated, thinking the temple cursed. Lorena knelt beside Ethan again. "We have to leave before they return," she said. He shook his head. "You can't carry me far. Watch me." But before they could move, the temple lights changed again, glowing gold now. A beam of energy surrounded Ethan's body. The wound began to close slowly. Lorena stared in awe. "The temple is healing you." Ethan's breathing steadied. "Guess it recognizes one of its own." When the light faded, he sat up weakly. Lorena helped him stand. "You should rest," she said softly. He looked at her with gratitude. "You're not the same princess I met on that balcony." She turned away. "Maybe not. The old Lorena died with her palace." They stepped outside as dawn broke across the desert. The suns rose slowly, painting the sky in gold and red. Ethan looked at the horizon. "What now?" Lorena's voice was firm. "We find my father. We expose Tyrax. And we end this war." Behind them, the ancient temple pulsed once more, as if blessing their promise. And far away, in a shadowed fortress, Lord Tyrax watched their movements through a glowing screen. "So the princess lives," he said with a cold smile. "Good. Let her run. The hunt is more fun when the prey still breathes." The twin suns rose blood-red over the mountains of Elthra. The war had spread like fire, and the empire that once glowed with beauty now trembled under lies. Across the networks, one message ruled every broadcast. Princess Lyrena has betrayed Elthra. The human invader commands her heart and her army. But the truth was buried deep, hidden behind the walls of Lord Tyrax's fortress, a dark citadel built into the bones of an ancient crater. It was there that Emperor Vrax was held prisoner, his life fading under Tyrax's cruel science. And it was toward that fortress that Lorena and Ethan Hale now traveled. For days they crossed endless plains of broken metal and sand. Old battle machines from past wars lay half buried in dust, reminders of how peace had always been fragile. Ethan had almost healed, but his steps were slower now. His strength was returning, yet his mind carried a quiet storm. He had seen what Tyrax was doing, using both Elthran and human technology to build something monstrous. As they camped, near a fallen satellite, Lyrena studied a hologram map projected from her wrist device. "Tyrax's fortress is here," she said, pointing to a glowing mark in the desert. "He's building an army powered by stolen human cores." Ethan frowned. "He wants to merge human and Elthran weapons. That would make him unstoppable." "He's already unstoppable," Lorena said softly, "unless we find proof of his crimes." Ethan looked at her. We can't fight his whole army alone. Then we'll fight with the truth, she replied. There was silence for a while. Then Ethan said quietly, You know, I used to think humans were the only ones who lied for power. Lorena smiled bitterly. Power lies everywhere, even among the stars. That night, they reached the cliffs overlooking Tyrax's fortress. The sky above it was filled with black drones and glowing ships. A river of molten energy flowed through the base, feeding a weapon that pulsed with a deadly red light. Ethan crouched beside Lorena. That's not a power reactor, he said. That's a war engine. Then we destroy it, she said. They moved through the shadows, slipping past patrols and laser gates. Inside the fortress, the halls were cold and alive with machinery. Screens glowed with blue static, voices echoed through metal walls. When they reached the main chamber, they froze. In the center of the room, inside a stasis field, was the Emperor, weak, pale, but alive. His veins glowed faintly with dark energy. Lorena pressed her hand to her mouth. Father? Tyrax stepped out of the shadows, his eyes burning with cold triumph. Ah, the lost princess returns. Ethan aimed his weapon, but Tyrax only smiled. Still protecting your pet human, I see. How poetic. The one you were meant to marry is now your executioner. Enough lies, Lorena snapped. You framed us. You destroyed our peace. Tyrax laughed softly. Peace? Peace is a cage. You were born to rule, princess, not to bow to weak creatures from Earth. He turned toward Ethan. And you, Captain Hale, you are far more valuable than you know. That mark on your hand, it's not just a symbol, it's a key. Ethan's grip tightened on his weapon. A key to what? To power, Tyrax said. You are the last descendant of the first Guardians, the bridge between our worlds. Your blood can unlock the ancient war machines buried beneath this planet. With it, I will rebuild the Empire in my name. Lorena's voice broke. You would kill billions for your pride? Tyrax smirked. Not pride, order. I will cleanse the galaxy of weakness. He waved his hand and energy cuffs locked around Ethan. Guards stormed the room. Lorena fought fiercely, but there were too many. She was thrown to the floor beside Ethan. Tyrax approached them slowly. You could have ruled beside me, princess, but you chose a human. Ethan looked up, bleeding but defiant. You'll never win. Oh, I already have, Tyrax said. Your precious emperor will die by human hands. His death will unite my people in hatred, and your love will die with him. Lorena's eyes filled with fury. You don't understand love, Tyrax. You only understand fear. She reached out toward Ethan. Their hands touched, and the rune on his skin glowed fiercely. The light spread across the room like a storm, shattering the cuffs and throwing the guards back. What is this? Tyrax shouted, shielding his eyes. Ethan's voice was quiet but powerful. The Guardians never served power, they served balance. The light surged, bursting the stasis field. The Emperor gasped, falling into Lorena's arms. His eyes opened weakly. My daughter, the truth, must live. Father, please. He smiled faintly. You were right to trust the human. Then his breath faded, and his body went still. Lorena froze, tears streaking down her face. Tyrax's laughter echoed through the chamber. How touching. You failed him, and now you'll join him. But before he could strike, the fortress shook violently. Alarms screamed. The war engine was overheating. Ethan pulled Lorena to her feet. We need to move. As they ran through collapsing corridors, Tyrax's voice thundered behind them. Run all you like. You can't hide from destiny. They escaped into the night just as the fortress exploded in fire. From the distance, Lorena looked back, her heart heavy. Her father was gone. Tyrax had vanished into the shadows. But now she knew the truth. Ethan's mark, the Guardians, the lie behind their wars, and she swore under the burning sky, I will end this. For my father. For both our worlds. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. Then we fight, together. The suns rose higher, their light falling over the ruins like a promise. The battle for truth had only begun. The war drums of Aelthra thundered across the stars. Every city, every ship, every soul now moved under Lord Tyrax's command. His voice echoed through the Empire's broadcasts. The traitor princess is dead. The human invader destroyed our emperor. All must rise for vengeance. But far from the Empire's burning heart, among the floating cliffs of the southern skies, Princess Lorena lived, broken, bruised, but alive. She stood at the edge of a ruined watchtower, watching smoke rise from the cities she once ruled. The air tasted of metal and ash. Her eyes, once filled with royal pride, now held only cold fire. Beside her, Captain Ethan Hale worked on an old transmitter, trying to bring it back to life. His hands were steady despite the exhaustion. Lorena turned to him. "Do you ever grow tired of fighting?" He looked up, sweat running down his face. "Every day, but I fight anyway." She nodded quietly. "Then maybe that's what strength really means." Over the next few days, word spread in whispers. A rumor that the princess was alive. Exiled soldiers, rebels, and even a few humans hiding on Aelthra began to seek her out. One by one they found her camp among the floating cliffs. They came from many worlds, engineers, pilots, farmers, warriors, all tired of Tyrax's lies. Lorena stood before them, her cloak blowing in the wind. "I am not your ruler," she said, her voice steady. "I am just one who refuses to kneel. If you wish to follow me, it won't be for a crown, but for freedom." The crowd bowed their heads. One soldier shouted, "For Aelthra." Another cried, "For the princess." Ethan added quietly, "For truth." The words spread like a spark through dry grass. A new army was born, not of nobles or machines, but of hearts. The next weeks were filled with fire and steel. Lorena led raids on Tyrax's supply ships, freeing prisoners and stealing weapons. Ethan trained the rebels in human tactics, ambush, stealth, and strategy. Every victory gave the people hope. Every battle carved Lorena's name deeper into legend. But Tyrax was not idle. His fortress had fallen, but his power grew. He had escaped with the war engine's core, and now built a new weapon in orbit, a machine that could wipe out entire cities with one strike. When news reached Lorena's camp, silence fell over her command tent. Ethan studied the stolen blueprints. "He's calling it the Ascendant. Once it charges, it'll fire on Earth first. Then Aelthra." Lorena's fists tightened. "Then we end it now." She looked at her army, tired, outnumbered, but loyal. "We'll strike at dawn." The final battle began under crimson skies. The rebel fleet rose from the clouds like a storm, clashing with Tyrax's armada above the capital. Lorena's voice rang through the comms. "For Aelthra, for the truth." Explosions lit the sky. Fighters streaked through smoke and lightning. Ethan's ship flew beside hers, shields flickering, his calm voice guiding their forces. "Stay low, focus fire on their engines," he shouted. Lorena dove through enemy lines, firing at Tyrax's flagship, a massive black vessel shaped like a blade. "We break through here." The rebels followed her lead, charging like a tidal wave of light. Inside the flagship, Tyrax watched the chaos with a sneer. "She learned to fight like a human," he muttered. "How pitiful." He turned to his officers. "Bring her to me alive. The human dies first." Lorena and Ethan breached the flagship's hangar, landing amid explosions. They fought their way through endless corridors side by side, every step bought with fire and blood. Finally, they reached the control chamber. Tyrax stood at the center, surrounded by glowing red energy. "Welcome home, princess," he said. "Your father would be proud if he weren't dead." Lorena raised her staff. "Your time is over, Tyrax," he laughed. "You think this is about power? No, it's about evolution. The strong must rule, and I will rebuild the galaxy in my image." He struck first, unleashing a blast of dark energy. Lorena blocked it with her staff, the impact sending shockwaves through the room. Ethan fired, forcing Tyrax back. But Tyrax was too powerful now, fused with the war engine's core. Every strike made him stronger. "You can't kill me," he roared. "I am the future." Ethan gritted his teeth. "Then the future dies with you." He ran forward, firing his weapon point blank. Tyrax threw him aside with a wave of energy. Ethan slammed into the wall, falling hard. "Ethan!" Lorena cried, rushing to him. He struggled to rise. "Finish it. Don't stop now." Something broke inside her, the fear, the pain, the doubt, all gone. Her eyes glowed with light as she lifted her staff high. The guardian rune on Ethan's hand answered, glowing even brighter. The energy connected them, forming a bridge of pure power. Lorena shouted, her voice echoing through the chamber. "You will never rule through fear again." She struck the final blow, the energy wave tearing through Tyrax's armor. His scream filled the air as the war core overloaded. "Lorena!" Ethan shouted. "It's going to explode!" She ran to him, pulling him close as the ship erupted in light. When the smoke cleared, the flagship was falling apart. Fires burned everywhere. The stars outside shone through the shattered hull. Ethan's breathing was ragged. He was wounded again, badly this time. Lorena held him tight. "Stay with me, please." He smiled faintly. "Told you I'd fight to the end." Alarms blared. The ship was breaking apart piece by piece. But Lorena refused to leave him. As they reached an escape pod, Ethan pressed his hand against hers. "You have to lead them now," he whispered. Lorena shook her head. "We lead together." He smiled again, weaker now. "That's human of you." Before she could reply, the pod launched into the stars, leaving the burning ship behind. The princess had won the battle, but victory had come with a price she wasn't ready to pay. Silence, that was all that remained after the final explosion. The wreckage of Tyrax's flagship drifted among the stars like a dying ember. Fire trails faded into the blackness of space. Below, the twin suns of Elthra began to rise again, quiet, almost mournful, as if the heavens themselves were remembering the dead. Inside a small escape pod, Princess Lorena held Captain Ethan Hale in her arms. His uniform was torn, his chest burned from the energy blast. His breathing was slow, each inhale weaker than the last. She whispered softly, her voice trembling. "Don't leave me, Ethan. Not now." His eyes fluttered open, calm even in pain. "You finally used my name," he murmured with a small smile. "Stop talking," she said, trying to keep her voice strong. "Save your strength. The rebels will find us soon." Ethan shook his head weakly. "No, you'll find them. You'll lead them." Lorena's eyes filled with tears. "We lead together. Remember?" He reached up, his hand trembling as it brushed her cheek. "We did, and now you must keep leading. For both of us." She gripped his hand tightly, refusing to let go. "Don't say goodbye." But even as she spoke, the guardian rune on his wrist began to glow again, stronger than ever before. The same light spread to her skin, linking their hands in a chain of blue fire. Ethan smiled faintly. "It's calling me back, to where it all began." "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "You can fight it." He looked into her eyes, no fear, no regret. Only peace. Maybe this was never about fighting, Lorena. Maybe it was about teaching us both how to stop. The light between them grew brighter until the entire pod glowed. His voice faded to a whisper. "Maybe you were never meant to marry a human, only to love one." And then, with a final breath, the light consumed him, and he was gone. The pod fell silent again. Lorena sat frozen, staring at the empty space where he had been. All that remained was the faint blue shimmer of the rune. Now resting on her own hand, she closed her eyes, tears falling silently onto his jacket folded across her lap. Days later, the rebellion ships found her drifting near the upper atmosphere. They pulled her from the wreckage and carried her home to a planet reborn in ashes. When she stepped out of the ship, the rebels bowed before her. "Your Highness," somebody said, an old soldier, "the war is over. Tyrax's fleet is gone. His followers have surrendered," but Lorena didn't smile. "The war isn't over," she said softly. "It's only sleeping." She rebuilt the empire piece by piece. The lies of Tyrax were erased, and the truth of the Guardians was written again into history. Elthrans learned that once, long ago, they had fought beside humans, not against them. And though peace returned, it was not the same peace she had known before. This one was fragile, like a flame protected by trembling hands. Years passed. The palace was restored, but Lorena never returned to the throne room. She ruled not from gold, but from the fields where the people worked. Her armor was gone. She wore simple robes of blue and silver, the colors of both worlds. Every evening, she climbed the highest balcony and looked toward the stars. One night, an ambassador from Earth visited her, a young woman carrying a message. "The humans wish to honor Captain Ethan Hale," she said. "They ask if you will speak at his memorial." Lorena looked at the stars again. "He doesn't need a statue," she said quietly. "He lives in what he changed." The ambassador nodded and left. When the night grew darker, Lorena stood alone, holding the small pendant Ethan once wore. Inside it was a crystal, half human-made, half Aelthran, glowing faintly blue. She whispered to the sky, "You once told me humans were strange because they loved even when they were broken. Now I understand." She smiled sadly. "Love isn't weakness. It's the bridge." A sudden wind swept through the balcony. The stars seemed to shimmer brighter. And for a moment, just a heartbeat, Lorena saw him. Ethan stood there, made of light, smiling at her. The rune on her hand glowed in answer. "Still watching over me, aren't you?" she whispered. He didn't speak, but she felt his words in her heart. Always. Then the vision faded, leaving only a streak of light shooting across the sky, a comet burning blue and gold. Lorena raised her eyes to it and spoke softly, her voice carrying through the night. "Go, Ethan Hale, guard the stars. I'll guard our worlds," and somewhere in that vast, endless sky, the echo of his laughter answered her. Gentle, warm, and free. Years later, the galaxy would tell their story, the tale of the alien princess who loved a human warrior, and how their bond rebuilt the bridge between two worlds. Children would look up at the stars and whisper their names together. Lorena and Ethan, the guardians of the bridge. And though the centuries would pass, the rune of their love would never fade. For even among the stars, some promises last forever.